Welcome to another episode of the Transfer Portal Podcast, presented by NoContextCFB. I'm your host, Dylan Ruben King. What a wild show we've got for you. We have so much coaching carousel stuff to talk about. The college football playoff rankings are out. The Heisman Trophy finalists were just announced as of recording. So much to talk about. I'm joined by Adam Coleman and my guy, Josh. Josh, this is your second time on the pod. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm good, man. Just excited to talk. A lot of action going on today, so let's get to it.
Yes, sir. And Adam, it's been a little bit since I've seen you on the pod. I don't think I've ever done a podcast with you since we've been doing the transfer portal stuff. So how are you?
No, yeah, we've been on here together a couple of times, but I'm not doing good. I'm sure you're not either, but we're getting to that. It was a rough weekend for a lot of people in the transfer portal. So
I don't think we had too many fans of Michigan and Alabama and teams that won this weekend. I'm an Oregon fan. Adam's a Houston guy. Josh is a Huskies fan, Washington Huskies fan, not Northern Illinois, unfortunately. We're all kind of going through it right now. And we want to start off with kind of the hot news that everybody's talking about right now. Mario Cristobal leaving Oregon to go to Miami. Obviously, I have a lot of thoughts, but I want to get it to you guys as well. Adam, from an outsider's perspective, Miami was kind of just in this weird situation where Manny Diaz was still under contract. They don't have an athletic director. Oregon is still in a Pac-12 championship and all these rumors are flying around. So what was your reaction to hearing all of this and, seeing how it all went down?
Well, at first, I didn't believe it. I thought it was a lot of just noise. And then more outlets kept reporting it. I think it was definitely time for Manny Diaz to leave. It just didn't work out for him at Miami, whether it was, coaching decisions. He just got unlucky sometimes with injuries. As far as Cristobal leaving like that, it kind of reminds me a lot of how Tom Herman left my University of Houston Cougars for his dream job at the University of Texas. I understand Oregon fans, they're going to hate him. When he was at UH, a lot of the Houston fan base, they started hating Tom Herman. But in the end, if that's your dream job, I'm all for him going for it. From an outsider perspective, will it work out? I guess we'll see. But how he left, it's never a right way to leave a program. It seems like feelings are gonna get hurt. I would hope that he let his staff know well ahead of time, and he let the players know. He talked to them privately. As far as the fans go, I don't think he owes us anything or an explanation. But more news will come about how he left, and just hope he did it the right way on the inside, I guess.
The situation has been really weird going on with Oregon because the rumors have started really since before, the Oregon State game in week 13, I believe it was just a couple of weeks ago. The players, you could kind of see the players tweeting, reacting to the reports. Miami Herald was kind of all over it at first, saying Miami was interested in going after Mario Cristobal should they move on for Manny Diaz. And like you said, I think it was more than due time that Diaz was going to get let go from Miami. 21-15 in 3 years. Miami just never took off and held up to their standard of, winning football. Josh, you're a Pac-12 guy. You're a Pacific Northwest guy. Washington just made the hire of Kalen DeBoer, a really good head coaching hire, in my opinion. When you're looking at Oregon now with, looking at USC getting Lincoln Riley, they're on the up and up. There are a lot of other, programs that are on the rise in the Pac-12. For you, are you kind of licking your lips here? Are you enjoying, Oregon kind of going through this and Oregon fans kind of suffering after getting rocked by Utah and losing a couple coaches?
As a Husky fan, yes, of course. I like seeing the Ducks suffer. But also from the Huskies perspective, and I just think from the Pac-12 perspective overall, Oregon's been the team for the past decade, especially because with USC down, they've been able to just take it. Like UW tried a little bit. We made it to the playoff, but we weren't able to capitalize off that success early. So I'm thinking that with this loss, I think the biggest thing is that's a lot of recruiting challenges that UW had going up against Oregon that's suddenly gone. We'll see who they bring in, of course, but yeah, Mario was just awesome at recruiting, and he got a lot of our players. So looking at it from the Husky perspective, I think it should help us, at least for now. But again, it's up to see who they bring in as a coach. If they bring in a guy who's an X's and O's guy, or they bring in a recruiter. So from that perspective, I'm happy, but also cautiously optimistic just to see if they bring in someone else who's a heavy hitter, then I'll be back to being a scared Husky fan.
That's a good point. And that kind of leads into what I want to talk about next is just who could Oregon go after? So many people are expecting this, flashy hire, this big name hire for Oregon. Obviously it's a national brand. It's, like you said, Oregon has been running the Pac-12 and mainly the Northwest, the West Coast for the better part of the last decade. And so, this is a very coveted job out there in the country, especially with, ones like LSU and Notre Dame gone. And so where does Oregon go? Adam, I want to start with you. Where do you think Oregon should go? What do you kind of see as, some possible candidates here?
My heart wants them to go to Chip Kelly. I know I saw that on the news. That's what, as a fan of college football, that's what I want. I want to see Chip Kelly back at Oregon. His whole offense there, it was revolutionary. Still think he's a good coach. I thought he did great things at UCLA. For a while there, he did great things with the Eagles as well. The fan of me wants Chip Kelly. As far as the most logical choice, it's hard to make that prediction the way things are going this year. I mean, literally, they could have Kellen Moore or somebody as their head coach in 2 days. Or it doesn't Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know. I'm just naming just these, brand names that everybody wants. But I'm gonna say Chip Kelly. That's who I want. That's who I hope gets it. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think it'll be a great hire.
I do want to get into Chip Kelly a little bit because I think, as someone who's been scouring Oregon Twitter for the better part of the last 9 hours since everything has gone down, Chip Kelly's name, even yesterday, Chip Kelly's name has been the number one guy that I've seen. And there have been just a ton of names, just a wave of names. I hadn't even heard Cliff Kingsbury. I'm surprised I haven't. But that's one that's new. But Chip Kelly, I mean, you kind of knew, right? I mean, Chip Kelly, UCLA is not really where they should be. Even though they went 8-4 this year, bowl game, looking better, but the team's going to look so much different next year. They have so many seniors that came back. I think it was all but maybe 2 starters that were returning from 2020. So team's going to look different. Recruiting, it's hard to recruit there to UCLA when you've got USC now and Oregon and Washington up the road. So Josh, who in the Pac-12, let me rephrase that. Who could Oregon go after that should scare the rest of the Pac-12 and you as a Husky fan?
To scare me would be Dave Aranda, because that dude, what he's done at Baylor after his first year, struggling a little bit, still having that defensive coordinator mindset, then bringing Jeff Grimes, the creative offensive coordinator from BYU, and just what they did with Baylor. Like, Baylor looks good again. Like when they had Matt Rule. So that's one that scares me. Stuff I've been reading and stuff I've been listening to, Dave Aranda would probably rather go west than go east. So I'm hoping, not that Chip Kelly doesn't scare me, but I'm hoping that he goes to Oregon, that Aranda goes to UCLA, and then at least Aranda would stay out of the Pac-12 North. But yeah, Dave Aranda's a guy who really scares me because he's a really good head coach, and I like what he's doing at Baylor.
Yeah, if Chip Kelly's number one, Dave Aranda's been number 2 from what I've seen. I mean, Aranda, you said it. I mean, Baylor has turned that ship around. Only 2 wins, 2020, Big 12 champions in 2021. I honestly thought Baylor was going to be in the bottom quarter of the Big 12, to be honest with you. I didn't think they were even going to be a bowl team coming into this year. And they've really shaken things up. In my opinion, I think Aranda is my top candidate as well. I think he's a guy that can clearly turn around a program. He's done a lot of good things as a defensive minded coach. You said it, brought in Jeff Grimes as well. So, I would put faith in him to make good hires, because Oregon, obviously is probably going to lose a lot of assistants with, Cristobal going to Miami. There have been reports that the offensive line coach is headed with him. I mean, the offensive line coach has been, pals with Mario Cristobal since they were in high school. They were high school teammates. Strength and conditioning coach, receiver coach, DB coach. They all have ties to Florida as well, and Cristobal. So, I expect this to be a really new Oregon coaching staff in 2022, minus the defensive coordinator, who will be in his second year. So really, it's a brand new staff. But Aranda, I think, has shown what he can do with a new coaching staff at a new program and kind of, keep the momentum. The Chip Kelly thing, though, I'm going to go against the Chip Kelly hire. Obviously, Oregon fans have been either crying for it or screaming against it so far today. I'm not going to scream against it, but I don't think that he would be a good hire in 2021. And I'll tell you why. I think that back in 2012, 2011, he was the most innovative mind in really the sport, in football. And I just feel like that time has passed. I don't think he's the offensive mind. I don't feel like everybody's catching up to him anymore, trying to figure him out. I think everybody's there. They've got him figured out. And he just hasn't had that success since, his tenure in Oregon. And he's not the recruiter that Oregon needs, given, what, like Josh, what you said, with the recruiting success that Oregon has had, not just in the Pacific Northwest like they usually do, but across the country. Like they've gone into Alabama, they've gone into Texas, gone into Florida. Like they can recruit from all over the country. And, Cristobal is one of the best recruiters in the country. Chip Kelly has never been that, even when he was with Oregon. So I just don't think that Chip Kelly is what Oregon is looking for to keep the momentum going that Cristobal left. But I think Aranda could be a guy that could really, kind of keep that rolling. Kalani Sitake at BYU is another one as well. But Adam, you mentioned something toward the end of one of the last comments about leaving for a dream job and fans kind of going against Cristobal. From a perspective like yours, where you're talking about Tom Herman going to Texas, do you kind of like feel a little bit of resent toward Tom Herman for that decision? Like, do you think fan bases are justified in that? Like, what's your feeling towards that?
They're definitely justified. Like, but I guess what I mean what I meant was that you can be mad at him, but you have to understand, like, what would you do in that situation? I know if I was Tom Herman and my dream job was to work at the University of Texas, that opportunity doesn't come, well, right now it does, because we can't figure out how to win, but normally your dream job only comes around once. So I would take that. It's not ideal to just jumping ship and leaving a good program like Oregon that was, starting to build on something, like Houston was. Houston was starting to build on something, but it's your dream job. And on the flip side, Tom Herman, Cristobal, anybody else, Lincoln Riley, they have to understand that the fans also have a right to be upset. Football's it's a passionate sport. We wake up, we root for our team like we're out there playing. So I think both sides have a right to be, I guess, passionate about whatever they want to do. Cristobal wants to go to Miami. He has to understand that the fans are going to be mad at him. He knows that, but it's his dream job. I would do the same thing. I think anybody would. So that's really that's how I felt when Tom Herman left for UT. I admit that deep down, I'm a UT fan. It's right back there, But deep down, for the first maybe season and a half, if I looked at Tom Herman, I would think, should have stayed at Houston. Like, how could you do that? And he's helping my team win, and I still resented him a little bit for it. So I definitely understand where it's coming from. It's just emotions for a team that you love,
Mario Cristobal was on a local radio show shortly after the news broke, just actually a couple hours ago, talking about, I don't expect fans to understand. I don't expect fans to, approve necessarily. That's not what it was for. It was the decision for him. And he said he didn't really expect this opportunity to come. And obviously he was torn between, what he's built at Oregon and this coaching staff and his players and going home. He's from Miami. That's his alma mater. He won a national championship with the university, with the Hurricanes. So like you said, nothing like this comes all the time. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And, he's coached there before a long, long time ago as a GA. And you have to think he was dreaming of coaching that program, and especially look at where the program is. It's not where it should be, given, the early 2000s when he was a player there. They were contending for national titles every year, and they're nowhere close to that. And you have to think that being able to rebuild the program and the university, for the university that you love so much, I mean, that's got to be intriguing as well. And, he's still got family there. He was talking about how his mom was sick and he had to fly back before, I believe it was the Oregon State game. He had to fly back to go visit her real quick. And so you have to think that that's kind of got a part in it. But Josh, I do want to ask you as well about the same question, dipping from a program to, go to their dream job when you've got something, kind of building here. Do you think Oregon fans should kind of feel a little bit of, I mean, they've been through it before with Willie Taggart just a couple of years ago. So do you think that, some of their feelings here are a little bit justified? Do you think they're maniacal? What's your take on all of it from the outside?
I get where fans are coming from, because fans are fans. Like, people forget fan is short for fanatic or crazy. We're all crazy for doing this. Like, we're watching people bash their heads together. And we cheer for it, and then they love it. It's a crazy sport. So I completely get where fans are coming from. But at the same time, it's like what Adam said, dream job, go for it. You don't get this chance very often. And I'm just looking at it from Cristobal's perspective. Again, like you mentioned, his mother's sick, lives down there. His brother's a cop down there. Be close to family, be where he knows that's his home. Go get your dream job, because it doesn't come that often. And you never know. I think for Oregon fans, though, they can take solace in the fact that this is unlike, I'll give an example, Billy Napier at Louisiana. He turned Louisiana around. They're really good. He turned on offers from South Carolina, Auburn, probably other places. Then he looked at this roster, a lot of seniors. It's probably a good time to leave. Not that he's dipping. It's just he realized, it's my time to go. And he got the Florida job. That's awesome. But I feel like that might be bad for Louisiana, just because I don't know if they have the infrastructure in place to keep it going, or if they're going to collapse. We've seen it with Boise State when Chris Peterson left. They were good for a few years after that, but they're starting to go on the downfall. Oregon, that's a great place. There's a lot of stability there. You go through like Kelly, you go through Cristobal, you go through Taggart. Who's the Helfert? How do you say that guy's name? Yeah.
Helfer.
Yeah. That's a lot of stable. There's a lot of coaches gone through, but it's been a lot of stability at Oregon for the most part. So I think there's a good foundation in place for the next coach to come in. That might be a little dip for Oregon, but then they'll be right back to competing for Pac-12 titles.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't agree with you more. I definitely think that there's, it's not going to be, a 10-win season next year, I wouldn't imagine. There's still a lot of talent coming in 2022. I do think Oregon in the long run will be fine. But one of the questions was asked to Oregon's athletic director today, and I was at the Zoom press conference for that, about like, how do you prevent this from happening again? You've had the Taggart situation where he probably knew if the Florida State offer was going to arise as he was signing his Oregon deal, he was going to take that at the end of the year. Cristobal is a lot different because, like you said, he enjoyed success. He built the program back 4-8, during the 2016 year, and he brought it back up. Won a Rose Bowl, 2 Pac-12 titles, had a chance for a third. So in my opinion, I don't feel any sort of resentment for Cristobal. I appreciate the guy for everything he did for Oregon. Is it tough that he left? Yeah. Is it tough? I had to make a graphic that has him wearing a Miami shirt. Absolutely it is. But I'm very appreciative for him. And, he put every ounce of his blood into the program, and I can't, thank him enough for it. And I'm glad he's going to the ACC and not another Pac-12 school, because I would absolutely dread that if he was back in the Pac-12. But Oregon, I expect them to make a hire that can get them into the college football playoff. And speaking of the college football playoff, I mean, the rankings just came out the other day. We've got the 4 teams. We've got Alabama at 1, Michigan 2, Georgia 3, Cincinnati 4. Josh, I want to go back to you. When you saw those 4, did you think it was correct? Did you think anybody from the outside should have got in? Do you think the seeding was wrong? Like, what was your reaction to it?
Yeah, I think that these were the best 4 teams to put in. There were other contenders, of course, but then this was kind of a nice year where like everything really cleaned itself up at the end. Where maybe you could say, maybe Notre Dame should have gotten in. They lost to Cincinnati. Maybe Oklahoma State should get in. They ended up losing, coming up a few inches short. Maybe so and so. It was all pretty cut and dry that these are the 4 teams that should be in. As for the seeding, I can get what people are saying that Michigan just blew out a team in their final game and they should jump to number 1. But then Alabama also went and blew out Georgia. So, and I get why Alabama's jumping to number 1. They beat the number 1 team. So yeah, go ahead and jump. And just looking at it, the seating's fine. The places are fine. I just think that at least, even like going back to the very first college football playoff rankings, the committee's been pretty good. So I mean, the committee, we give them a lot of flack, but hey, good job this year, committee. Nice job.
There we go. We actually have a fan of the college football playoff committee, and it's out there. Like they can hear that now. I'm sure a lot of people are just, going crazy about it for one reason or the other. I think the only thing that I can kind of see the argument for is Cincinnati over Georgia. I feel like some people have been saying that. I don't see it as much, but I think I agree with you. I think they got the 4 right. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, they definitely got the top 4 right. I'm so happy that Notre Dame is not in there. I don't think anybody wanted to see that. So that's a plus. Yeah, I kind of what you said. I thought maybe Cincinnati and Georgia could flip, but that's splitting hairs. I don't have a problem with it. I think the matchups will be good too. I think those are the best 4 teams right now. I didn't think Oklahoma State was anywhere close to the level of any of these other teams. So glad they're not in there. Maybe it will. You could argue Ohio State is better than Cincinnati, but they didn't do their job. So that's on them. I have no complaints either. I'm ready to see what happens in January though.
What about an argument for Baylor, Adam? What do you think Baylor could have had an argument here?
I think that, Cincinnati went 13-0. They have some quality wins as well. It just would have been, they beat Houston in convincing fashion. Baylor, that if you watched that game, I don't know if you were able to watch it. Baylor did not look good in that game at all. They got shut out in the second half. If Spencer Sanders would laid an egg, they would have lost the game. So I have no. Cincinnati, I think they're the better team.
We have the New Year's 6 teams as well. Baylor is one of those going up against Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. That one should be really fun. Rose Bowl, I think, is my personal favorite to check out. Utah against Ohio State. I've been watching Utah all year long, even when Charlie Brewer was the quarterback and it looked like they were going to have a 5-win season. It's remarkable what Kyle Whittingham has done. Oklahoma State and Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. We talked about the playoff teams, and then Pittsburgh and Michigan State in the Peach Bowl. So were there any teams, going back to you, Adam, were there any teams that you thought maybe should have been a New Year's 6 team? And what are some of your favorite matchups of the slate?
I think I don't really have a problem with the New Year's 6 games either. The matchups, I would have maybe moved some around, but let me have a look. See what the matchups are for the bowls. Yeah, so Utah, Ohio State. I agree with you. I think that's going to be a great game. Kentucky versus Iowa. I don't know about that one, but Oklahoma State, Notre Dame. I think that's a good matchup as well. Baylor, Ole Miss. Pretty even. It's a lot of even games. Arkansas, Penn State. I think they're spot on right now. Honestly, I have zero complaints as far as the New Year's 6 games go. Some of the other bowl games, don't understand how my Cougars got pinned against a 6-6 Auburn team.
I knew it was coming.
I don't understand that, how we get the Birmingham Bowl, whatever that is, at 11 a.m. But I'm not gonna. We didn't win, so I can't really complain. It's fine.
Yeah, they were one of two teams I definitely thought kind of got a bit hosed in this bowl process. I thought Houston did. I thought BYU did as well with the Independence Bowl.
Yes.
I thought BYU. I don't know about a New Year's Six bowl, just any better bowl than an Independence Bowl. Like they had a really, really good year when nobody thought they were going to be very good. I didn't think they were going to get close to 10 wins this year. I thought it could have been 6-6, 7-5. But yeah, I mean, that shows you the kind of coaching that Sataki has and the kind of talent that they were able to bring in and maintain as well. Josh, did you have any issues with the New Year's Six and any other teams that you thought maybe should have gone in?
I mean, I like what you were saying about Baylor. Unfortunately, I think if I remember the rankings correctly, I don't think they qualified, but I feel like they would have had a chance. I've been joking, and a lot of people are saying that they are the Pac-12 title winners because they did beat everyone in the Pac-12 South, including Utah, that they faced. And I think it would have been interesting to see them in because I think we're a very talented team. I would have loved to see last year's team make a New Year's Six. I know it wasn't possible, and their schedule last year was a lot more weaker than this year. But yeah, otherwise, good matchups, good everything. So I think it's all pretty even, pretty understandable.
I think you were talking about BYU, right? You said Baylor, but I believe you were talking about BYU. Gotcha. Yeah, so
I would have loved the Houston versus BYU matchup.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That
would be. And speaking of fun bowl matchups that we do have, obviously we could talk about the hypotheticals all day, but of the ones that we do have, if you could, go to any bowl game, regardless of how much it costs for flights, trying to fly right now is absolutely dumb trying to afford that. But Josh, which one would you go to?
I mean, there's so many, and I'm tempted to take the Bahamas Bowl just because it's, in the Bahamas. But actually, I think the one that's really intriguing to me is the Peach Bowl, Michigan State versus Pittsburgh. In that both defenses are weak against what their opponent is good at, where Michigan State is not good against the pass, and Kenny Pickett gets to line up and throw up against them. And then on the flip side, Pittsburgh's run defense isn't the best, and Kenneth Walker III, again, this is all assuming no opt-outs, Kenneth Walker III going up against that Pitt defense to just run for as many yards as Kenny Pickett passes for, that would be something to see. That would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be an interesting one. Adam, I know you're bummed out about Houston. Texas isn't in it, so I'm just
Texas. Why was talking about that?
There's a lot of bowl games that are in your area, though. But I mean, not just sticking to where you're limited to in Texas, but anywhere. What bowl game would you punch your ticket to?
See, it's funny you mentioned a lot of good bowl games in Texas. That's the one I was going to pick. I'm really tempted to drive down to San Antonio and see the battle of Oklahoma, who kind of got screwed in the head coaching department, Oregon, who just got screwed in the head coaching. See them battle it out in San Antonio. I think that's the one that I am most intrigued for. Might have to make that little trip down on December 29th and see what happens.
I'm glad you can, because flights from Seattle to San Antonio are like $700 a piece. So
Jesus, yeah, that's a 3-hour drive for me. So,
oh, there you go. Yeah, I don't want to drive like 20 hours to go to San Antonio. No, thank you. But that one's going to be interesting because I feel like there's going to be a lot of opt-outs in that one, particularly given the coaching changes. And then Oklahoma is going to have Bob Stoops as the interim. I've been hearing some talk about Oregon going back to Mike Bellotti for this. For an interim spot here. That would be really, really interesting. I was in the Alamo Bowl press conference yesterday. Bob Stoops was there and Cristobal was there. It looked like he was in an airport wearing Oregon gear saying, we're really excited to be there. And who the hell knows if he was even, if he had agreed to a Miami deal at that point. He just looked like he could be anywhere else, but that's neither here or there. But that one is going to be interesting just to see how those two teams played. It was, if people thought an Oregon-Oklahoma matchup in late December was going to happen, everybody probably would have assumed New Year's Six or a college football playoff even. And to think that they're both in the Alamo Bowl is it's pretty sad, to be honest. And now they're both without their head coach. It's a crazy season, crazy coaching carousel. For me personally, I mentioned it briefly. The Utah-Ohio State game is going to be so good. I mean, the way Utah is playing right now, I don't think if there was a 12-team playoff, Kirk Herbstreit was talking about this. If there was a 12-team playoff bracket, 8-team playoff bracket, they would be one hell of a dangerous team with the way they're playing right now and the confidence that they're playing with. I mean, this is just a team that has been motivated since early in the year, obviously dealing with so much tragedy and adversity. And, this is a Utah program that's never won the Pac-12, never been to a Rose Bowl. And it was just destiny for this to happen for them this year. And I mean, wouldn't we all just love to see Utah go into the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, and beat Ohio State, a team that so many people thought was going to be the national champion or at least in the playoff? I mean, that would just be remarkable. And, Kyle Whittingham is one of the most underrated coaches. I've said that even when Utah was, kind of a middling Pac-12 team, but it's really shown his capability now. And we talked about a couple of the games a little bit before, but I want to talk about the conference championship weekend. We're kind of a little bit past it. It seems like forever ago that we were all watching the conference championship weekend already. But Josh, I want to start with you. Since I don't mean to bash on you, but I know Washington wasn't in it, so you're kind of on the outside looking in. It's just an interesting perspective. So, what games were you watching? And what kind of surprised you? What did you not expect to happen? I probably know which one you're going with, but I just want to see.
I don't know. I was able to catch pretty much every single game. And the one that surprised me a lot was Alabama versus Georgia, the SEC title game. And the big thing was that Alabama's offensive line, which had gotten bullied by A&M, which has gotten bullied by Arkansas, bullied by LSU, bullied by Auburn, they didn't get bullied by Georgia's defensive line, which is crazy. They allowed 0 sacks, only 8 quarterback hurries. And everyone's going to talk about, Bryce Young was incredible, just dotting up all over the place. But it's because he had so much time to just survey the field. And even when he had to scramble a little bit, he just rolled out a little bit, just dumped off a pass or just chucked it deep. And just the fact that Georgia's defense gave up that many points and just looked tired. Like by the third quarter, it looked like the defensive line was just had their hands on their knees and they were just out of it. Not that they weren't trying, it's just that they were gassed. And that was super surprising to me. And I guess another one was the ACC title game where Wake Forest offense just disappeared after the first quarter. That was another one where it's kind of, I don't know, sometimes Sam Hartman just seems to do that in games where he just implodes and throws picks. So those two games were surprises to me.
Well, if you talk about the bowl game last year, I'm losing who they played, but it was a very similar kind of outcome where, yeah, like you said, he just kind of folded under pressure, and it was really tough to watch because I picked Wake Forest. I thought their offense was going to come in and kind of keep up with Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's defense looked very good. In that second half. I mean, it wasn't just Wake Forest making all those mistakes. I mean, Pittsburgh's defense looked probably the best it's looked in the whole season. But you talked about Georgia's defense, and I'm not going to try to slight Georgia's defense because obviously the numbers they put up are maniacal. But what was the best offense that they played outside of Alabama? Honestly, was it Florida, Arkansas? Like, I don't think that they played an offense that could really challenge that defense. And Arkansas has a lot of talent. I was impressed starting there when they shut them out. But other than that, like, I didn't think there was any opponent that, could have challenged them the way Alabama did. And I feel like Michigan might do the same thing. I don't think to the level that, Bryce Young did, but I think they could put up some numbers against Georgia as well, given, the film that's now out there where the weaknesses lie within that Georgia defense. Adam, I know one game you were watching, but we might avoid that, I'm assuming. But what other games were you watching, and what kind of stood out to you?
Woke up early to watch the Big 12 championship, see Baylor versus Oklahoma State. It kind of went as I expected. Without Jalen Warren, when I found out he was going to be out, I figured that Oklahoma State would have to rely heavily on Spencer Sanders, and I didn't think that would work. It didn't work clearly. Baylor, I didn't know that Bohannon wasn't going to play. That was a shocker to me, but they the first half, everything seemed fine. They were up 21-6, and I thought the game was over, but in that second half, neither team wanted to win. So but it was a good game. After that, I did watch my Cougars. We had a good early start, but in the second half, that Cincinnati team is not built like a group of 5 team. If you watch them compared to the other, teams in the American, they're just so much bigger, so much faster. It's nothing you can really do. I didn't think Houston played bad. I didn't think Clayton Tune played horrible. It's just, he reached his ceiling, and his ceiling isn't that Cincinnati defense. They just break you, and they break you down. And that's why I think that people aren't really giving them a chance. I think with those corners and that defense, they have a chance to compete with anybody. I kind of tuned into the Alabama-Georgia game. I was on the road back to Dallas, but I was shocked what happened to Georgia. I thought they were the best team in the country by far. Even though they didn't play anybody, I'm shocked. I'm shocked by what happened. And Alabama showed a lot. Bryce Young picked him to win the Heisman in last week's pod, or whenever we picked. And I think he won it with that game right there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. I think he was, it's been up in the air who's the Heisman front runner all season long. I mean, I think the only time we thought we were certain was when Kenneth Walker tore up Michigan. Like, he won it, and then he fell off the face of the planet. And then now Bryce Young torches the best defense in the millennium. And Alabama put up 24 points in the second quarter, which blows my mind because the most that Georgia had given up in a single game going into the SEC championship was 17, and Alabama just ripped them apart. But the one game that surprised me maybe even more, and I've been anti-San Diego State all year, but I was not expecting Utah State to absolutely shred San Diego State by 33 points. That shocked me a lot. And I knew that San Diego State had no offense whatsoever. Like, it was putrid, one of the worst I'd ever seen. And Utah State, I wasn't sure how they were going to do with kind of the limelight in the championship game. They were picked to be last in their division by so many people. And they went out in there and they just tore it up against a really good defense. And so I was very impressed that Blake Anderson was able to put that team together and just get a huge win like that on the road even. I mean, not like San Diego State has a ruckus crowd or anything like that at, their little soccer park that they call a stadium. But I mean, that was really, really impressive to win on that stage in that fashion. And then there were a couple games Friday night. I don't know if you guys recall. There was a UTSA. That's the one I was watching.
One game.
Yeah, there was one I was watching. It was UTSA. That was a really fun game. I mean, I kind of tuned out a little bit when UTSA, I think they were up by like 26-29 at one point. And then Bailey Zappi did what Bailey Zappi did and nearly brought him all the way back. But that was a really fun game. That was probably the most fun of all of them this weekend. I enjoyed watching USC and Cal, though, in the middle of the night. That was a lot of fun for me. Is anybody else watching USC and Cal with me, or is it just me?
I was not.
I tuned in.
I saw they were playing.
I tuned in the second half when it was 17-7, and then the final score was 24-7. So I missed all the air quotes action. It was, besides Cal's beautiful uniforms, that was the epitome of a sleepy game. Like, I was tired, but I'm like, I'm gonna be up. I'm gonna watch it. And it was just sad. It was just sad.
It was so weird for me because whenever I watch Oregon games, obviously I'm tuned in, but I've got like my laptop. I run the live updates for Ducks Digest over on the Sports Illustrated network. So I'm not always just like sitting down on a couch, relaxing and just watching. And I haven't done that a lot this year because of everything I do with Ducks Digest. But USC and Cal might have been the first game this year where I locked myself upstairs. I sat on the couch and just watched football. And of course, it was the second to last regular season game of the year. And it was the most sicko game of the entire season. Just nothing on the line. All the conference is over. Neither team is bowl eligible, but that's what made it so good though, was just, what's on the line? Who can actually motivate themselves to win just a stupid game that doesn't matter at all? And just, school pride, program pride. But, it's going to be interesting, seeing what these programs do, because obviously USC is, got a new coach by the name of Lincoln Riley. So they'll probably be better than 4-8. And Cal, Justin Wilcox is another name in that Oregon carousel in those rumors. It's a former Oregon defensive back from Eugene. So you never know. Maybe he goes back. But the last thing I want to talk about, we talked about it just for a second with Bryce Young, the Heisman Trophy. In case you're tuning in, we're recording on December 6th around 4:00 Pacific time. I think just about an hour ago, right before we came on to record, the Heisman Trophy finalists were revealed. They are Michigan defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, which is really cool that a defensive player was recognized as a finalist. Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud, Alabama quarterback Bryce Young, and Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett. So, Josh, when you saw these four names, did you think this was the right four in your mind? You're like, yep, this is who I would have thought. Do you think there's somebody that's missing? Kenneth Walker was a front runner for a while. Do you think he should have been in there?
I think these four are the four that should be going to New York. I'd wish that there'd be more, that they could bring everybody who gets a vote, but that's not feasible. So Kenneth Walker, that's one where it feels like the Saquon Barkley year, where Saquon started off the year amazing, and then he just fell off the face of the earth, and then everyone forgot about him. But yeah, it's awesome to see Aiden Hutchinson in there. There's a lot of media where they're trying to say, hey, maybe this is the year because it's so wide open that a defensive player should win. But Bryce Young is probably going to win it because he went 97 yards in the Iron Bowl, and then he just tore up Georgia, and then all year he's been awesome. So Bryce Young, who I was saying, hey, might win the Heisman this year, and I'm kind of biased that way, I'm going to say that probably going to be Bryce Young. Even though the other finalists, Pickett, pretty good, Stroud, awesome, Hutchinson, awesome. They're all deserving, but I think it's got to go to Young.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think Bryce Young clinched it. I didn't think there was anything else that the other three guys could have done to take it from Bryce Young after tearing up the number one defense in the country. I definitely think it's Bryce Young's to lose. Adam, did you agree with the four? If you could have had one more, who would you have added?
Yeah, I do agree with the four. If I could have added one more, I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe, I don't even know, because I don't think anybody from Georgia. That's just a good team all around. C.J. Stroud, he was great all year. Bryce Young, no problems with. Kenny Pickett, no problems with. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. Who?
Matt Araiza, maybe?
What did you say?
Matt Araiza, San Diego State punter.
I don't. Maybe maybe somebody from Utah. I don't know. That's a tough one because we talked about it earlier. It's for the longest it was wide open. Like you didn't know who really wanted to win the Heisman, and then Bryce Young, he kind of took it to that level. But 2 weeks ago, Bryce Young might not even been in the conversation. Kenny Pickett, I thought he did. I thought his win versus Wake Forest was huge. I think if he might have won the Heisman if Bryce Young didn't do what he did. But other than that, maybe if my Cougars beat Cincinnati, you might have seen a little Marcus Jones in there. I don't know. But I have no problems with it. I think Bryce Young's going to win. Kenny Pickett had a good year as well, though. It's good to see a defender in there getting recognized. I didn't think he would make it, honestly. So I was very happy to see that. But,
Yeah. I felt like this was the year we were going to see an edge rusher in New York. Aiden Hutchinson coming in did not have, I don't think he had it nearly as much media hype as Kayvon Thibodeau had. Kayvon's been kind of the runaway #1 pick in most people's mock drafts all year. Obviously got hurt early on. A lot of teams schemed around him, so he was getting double teamed, triple teamed, running away from him, all that stuff. But I'm glad that there is a defensive player as well. I mean, because Aiden Hutchinson absolutely balled out. I was reacting there. My phone's been exploding over here for the last half hour or so. 5-star offensive tackle Kelvin Banks is decommitted from Oregon. He's a Texas guy, 3rd Oregon recruit to decommit today. So now you're kind of seeing some more of the effects there from Mario Cristobal leaving. So I guess that's why my phone's been imploding since we started recording. Oh man, that's tough. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much everything that we wanted to cover. We wanted to try to fit as much in as we could, given everything that's going on. We'll be back at it on Wednesday. We'll have a ton of content coming for you on the transfer portal. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at @TPortalCFB. We've got over 2,500 followers. So if you follow us over there, thank you so much. We really appreciate your support. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on Spotify, Apple, however that stuff works. Make sure to tune in all the time. And check out our work at thetransferportalcfb.com. We're going to have an unbelievable amount of content coming out. We're going to try to do stuff for every bowl game. We'll see how that goes. We got a lot to figure out there. But thank you everybody so much for tuning in and watching, and we'll see y'all in the next one.